wonder if you think of this community as yours, as in you own it, as in this is your home. I don't mean that you, any of you, exclusively, you own it, as if any one of you had the power to make all the decisions and to do things exactly your way. What I mean is that this community, this building, this vision for the world, this staff, this fiscal responsibility, this commitment to humanism, all of this is owned by you collectively, all together. Now, if any of you have ever lived communally, whatever that means to you, be it as a family or a chosen family or intentional community, you know how difficult it is to do things collectively. It can be infuriating, it can be time-consuming, it can be conflictual, and it's really the only way to build community, to ensure belonging for all. That is to act together for the well-being of the whole. Not an easy thing. One of my favorite novels is The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. Those of you who have read the book or seen the movie may recall that Lily, the young runaway protagonist, is taken in by three sisters, August and June and May, who keep bees and make honey and live in a Pepto-Bismol colored house. One day, Lily and August, after a long afternoon labeling honey jars, walk out to the hives to do bee patrol. And here's a short passage from that book in the voice of Lily. "There's one thing I don't get," I said. "What's that?" "How come if your favorite color is blue, you painted your house pink?" She laughed. "That was May's doing. She was with me the day I went to the paint store to pick out the color. I had a nice tan color in mind, but May latched on to this sample called Caribbean pink. She said it made her feel like dancing a Spanish flamenco. And I thought, well, this is the tackiest color I have ever seen. And we'll have half the town talking about us. But if it can lift May's heart like that, I guess she ought to live inside it." "All this time I just figured you like pink," I said. She laughed again. "You know, some things don't matter that much, Lily, like the color of a house. How big is that in the overall scheme of life? But lifting a person's heart, now that matters. The whole problem with people is they don't know what matters and what doesn't," I said, filling in her sentence and feeling proud of myself for doing so. I was gonna say, the problem is they know what matters, but they don't choose it. You know how hard that is, Lily? I love May, but it was still so hard to choose Caribbean pink. The hardest thing on earth is choosing what matters. Now, it seems to me that choosing to work together collectively means being able to choose what matters over what we might want as individuals. My preferred word for this is stewardship, a word that is often used in the context of caring for the earth. And we might think of stewardship as a three-legged stool, which requires three legs in order to stand. One leg is something to care for. One leg is someone to care for that thing. And the third leg is someone or something for whom the caring is done. In other words, something that matters. Being stewards is tending to what matters. But maybe a stool is too static of a symbol. Stewardship is fluid, perhaps more like one of those recycling symbols. Because to live in the spirit of stewardship is to see the big picture of our interrelatedness, to see that what has flowed to us flows through us and on to others. In that kind of fluidity, we are the bee and the honey and the beekeeper, and we are never really in only one role. To live as stewards is not simply about giving, but rather is to consciously and gratefully enter into a stream that flows toward us and through us, and which continues on in service to all that will follow us. Now, there's a bee that deeply impacted me in childhood, Mr. Doobie from Romper Room. His insipid reminder to buzz around all day doing everything right. I always do everything right. I never do anything wrong. I'm a romper-room doobie, a doobie all day long. Now, I swallowed Mr. Doobie's message, hook, line, and stinger. It is a message that I am still constantly in conversation with, sometimes blindly following along, then embracing it and then questioning it and then honoring it and then resisting it again. There is a hard truth to be found in the relationship between how we spend our time, that is what we do, how we give of ourselves, what we think about, and the degree to that which is, and the degree to which something is important to us. But the truth is, we aren't here just to be doobies. We don't exist as a community in order to have a place to volunteer, or a place to create working groups, or to go to meetings, or even to gather on Sunday mornings. Rather, we give, we serve, we come on Sundays because what this community is and what it stands for matters to us. It's our home. Because of the honey it provides, the honey we make together, and the honey we're setting in store for future generations. We're here because we found here the honey of life in all its sweetness and life-giving properties. We're here to experience that kind of belonging. We're here to be stewards of the good news of humanism, a message that insists that all creatures, beings, have a place, a message of the freedom of thought and the right of each person to search for that meaning, a message that this beautiful creation is a web of interconnection from which we all benefit and for which we all have responsibility in the here and now. This is sometimes radical and controversial and a countercultural message, and amid societal changes, increasing political violence, toxic and nonstop mass media, and increasing demands on our time and our attention, this community faces greater and greater challenges in sharing its message. Remember what August said to Lily, that the problem is that we know what matters and we don't choose it? What would it take for us to choose stewardship of this community as a priority? What would it take for us to paint our house bright pink, because that is what would lift someone's spirit? I know you are here today because you chose to be here. You chose to come and participate in this community over all the other choices out there. You could have stayed in bed, gone out for a hike, countless other things. You chose to be here because it matters to you to be here, because you believe this community matters, and it matters that you're here. The voice of Mr. Doobie keeps pushing us to do, and yet, and of course, sometimes doing is a way of being. Stewardship, as I said, is fluid. We receive, we tend, we give, we tend, we receive, all in one continual motion, a motion that at its best can hardly distinguish between the giving and the receiving and the giving. And thankfully, the voice of this community also pushes us to be, to be grateful, to be joyful, to be authentic, to love and be loved, to serve as a lifestyle, as a way of being. How do we know what matters most? I believe Unitarian Universalism believes that each of us determines that for ourselves, that within each heart and mind is a conscience that guides, a light that shines, a bee that buzzes, so that we may know what is right and what is true and what's important. And this community is here to support one another as we search for what is right and what is true and what it is that matters. And when we can grow into that reality, it will be natural, I hope, for us all to choose to be stewards of this place together. And in order to serve the future, I think we have to be willing to let go of some of the past. Those of us who are in the baby boom and builder generations need to see it as our responsibility to make this place accessible and relevant for the younger generations, for those who come. And implied in that is maybe that we have to give up what we want it to look like in service of what they want and need. A community that looks the way it has always looked and acted the way it has always acted isn't going to be relevant for the coming generations. For newcomers to feel they belong, we may just have to help them paint the house pink. Now, I don't mean that there's no place here for us, the older crowd, or that our needs cannot be addressed. Quite the contrary, we're all needed. But it does mean that with an open attitude, we might just grow in some unexpected ways and experience life-giving surprises. Life-giving surprises, living into stewardship as a way of life, acting together in community as a way of life. The times are tough, the needs are great. And this place, First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, has a unique and important role to play. This past week, UUA President Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt shared these words. Choosing to gather in community with others who would put the ideals of love itself first, over hatred, over violence, or the misuse of power and control, is itself a revolutionary act. I'm not saying that love alone will save us. My prayer is that the power of love will remind us to save ourselves. Let us act in revolutionary ways. Let us choose love and all that love can do. Let us be stewards of this community. I currently have this quote from Adrienne Marie Brown at the bottom of my email signature. The days are all too heavy, and then we lift together, all together.